All right, today we're headed to Jerusalem. You know, it's a city whose name echoes in the prayers of literally billions of people. So we're going to try and unpack how this one small city became the absolute sacred heart for three of the world's biggest religions.
So, this really is the central question, isn't it? How on earth can one tiny square mile be the holiest place on the planet for three different religions? I mean, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam? It sounds impossible. Well, the answer is all about this incredible, almost unbelievable density of sacred history that's been packed into one very, very specific place. Okay, so first up, one city, three faiths. You see, to even begin to get your head around Jerusalem, you have to appreciate this insane concentration of sacredness. We're talking about a city where thousands of years of faith are literally layered on top of each other, all zeroing in on a single point. Which brings us to our next point, the old city's epicenter. So where exactly is all this unfolding? We've got to zoom way in because this whole epic story with all its faith and conflict is happening in one incredibly small, compact spot. This is it, the whole story. Everything we're talking about is concentrated right inside these ancient walls, the old city in East Jerusalem. And in this tiny, tiny space, you find the holiest sites for Judaism, for Christianity, and for Islam. And get this, sometimes they're just steps away from each other. You know, there's actually a perfect term for this kind of place, a religious epicenter. And that's exactly what this is. I mean, just picture it. The main holy sites for three massive world religions all squeezed into this one location. It's what makes the city so incredibly sacred, for sure, but it also makes it a major flashpoint for tension and competing claims. And this quote really just hits the nail on the head. One source puts it this way. This extreme proximity is a major reason why the area is a focal point of religious political tension. So think about that for a second. It's not just that the sites are near each other. Their closeness, the fact that they're practically on top of each other, is a huge part of the problem. All right, so let's break it down by faith. Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. What exactly are these sites? Let's take a look at each religion and pinpoint their sacred ground, all inside the old city. Okay, let's start with Judaism. For the Jewish faith, the spiritual anchor is right here. It's the Western Wall. Now, this is so much more than just a wall. It's what's left of the massive retaining wall that surrounded the Second Temple complex, the holiest place in ancient Judaism, which was destroyed by the Romans almost 2,000 years ago. So for Jews today, this is the holiest spot where they can pray. It's a real physical connection to their ancient history. Okay, now let's turn to Christianity. For Christians, well, Jerusalem is basically the stage where the most critical events of their faith happened, and it all centers on one specific building, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. I mean, this ancient church is believed to be built on the exact spot where Jesus was crucified and then resurrected. For hundreds and hundreds of years, this has been the ultimate goal for Christian pilgrims. It's the absolute heart of their faith. And that brings us to Islam. For Muslims, Jerusalem holds this incredibly special and sacred place in their history, which leads us to this incredible elevated platform. Now, it's known to Jews as the Temple Mount and to Muslims as the Haram al-Sharif, or the Noble Sanctuary. And right on top of it, you have two of the most iconic buildings in all of Islam, the Al-Aqsa Mosque and the Dome of the Rock. Why here? Because this is the very spot where Muslims believe the Prophet Muhammad ascended into heaven. This is what makes Jerusalem the third holiest city in Islam, right after Mecca and Medina. So let's just quickly put that all together. For Judaism, you've got the Western Wall, that direct link to the Second Temple. For Christianity, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, the site of the crucifixion and resurrection. And for Islam, the Al-Aqsa Mosque and the Dome of the Rock, marking the Prophet's journey to heaven. You see? Three different faiths, all with their deepest roots in one tiny, sacred, and very contested piece of land. So the big question is, how did all these incredibly important sites end up crammed together? Well, let's look at a timeline of control. Because really, power over this sacred ground has been like a revolving door of empires. A quick look at the history shows you just how many layers are built into these ancient stones. I mean, just look at this incredible flow of history. It starts with the Kingdom of Israel building the first temple way back when. Then the Romans come in and destroy the second temple. A few centuries later, the Islamic Caliphate takes over and builds the Dome of the Rock. Then come the Christian Crusaders, then the Ottoman Empire for a whole 400 years, all leading up to 1967, when Israel captures East Jerusalem. You can see how every single one of these powers left their mark, creating this incredibly complex city we see today. Okay,
That brings us to today. Why does all of this ancient history still matter so much? Well, it's because that last date on the timeline, 1967, basically drew the battle lines for the conflict we see in modern times.
Yeah, the 1967 Six-Day War was the absolute game changer. Before that war, the Old City was under Jordanian control. Afterwards, it was under Israeli control. That one event completely shifted the ground and set up the political reality that defines the entire argument over who controls it today.
And here's what that reality looks like. You have two powerful, competing national claims. On one side, Israel claims Jerusalem is its united and undivided capital. On the other side, Palestinians claim East Jerusalem, which, remember, includes the Old City and all those holy sites as the capital of a future Palestinian state.
And this really gets to why this conflict is so difficult to solve. It's just not about a piece of land. It's way deeper than that. For everyone involved, having control over these sites is tied to their deepest religious beliefs, their entire national story, their very identity. You've got faith, identity, and sovereignty all colliding in one single spot.
So it really leaves you with a big question to think about, doesn't it? When you have thousands of years of history, the core of religious faith, and modern-day politics, all fighting for space on the very same sacred ground, who gets to write the next chapter?